together. And our proverb today is the child of a snake is a snake. In Swahili, they would say, mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. How would you interpret that?
Wow. I think, do I take a political perspective or
it's your interpretation? Remember, your interpretation is never wrong.
I think if we were to contextualize it in our context, in our Kenyan context, what we are seeing manifesting itself politically today is reflects a history that we've traveled quite for some time. So I think the current administration we're seeing in Kenya here, in a way, sort of reflects those misgivings we have had in the past. And maybe that, for me, is the political interpretation I'll give it. Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka. You have got KANU surrogates now in charge of the government. We are back to some very unpleasant conversations in the country, including, and I'm sure we'll talk about the shoot to kill order. And you know, it takes us back memory lane. Like, are we sliding back to those dark ages? So I think things haven't changed. You know, you can't change the son of a snake from. Maybe it's a resemblance. It could have some level of resemblance, but it's still a snake.
It's still a snake at the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
Well, so we get into it, and thank you for that interpretation, because that's it really. They can't expect it to be anything more than what it actually is presenting. And even as we get into this conversation today, a day after the protest, we did hear the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security and Administration say a number of things. And I think all of us were taken aback when we were in chagrin and we were like, what on earth has he just said? No sooner had he said it and people were met with shock that he repeated the same in a different forum. And so I often say, and I guess it's just common sense, that if you repeat something in the same manner that you said it the first time, then there's an element of seriousness that you were then applying to it, and that those who are listening to you should also take you seriously. Thereafter, we did hear the perennial thing that he had been misquoted. And that is not exactly what he meant. But before we get into this conversation, I just want to play what he said, and then we can get into what an interpretation of that might have been, and what the law actually allows you to say or not say. Let's hear what he did say.
Meambia polisi, mtu yoyote mwenye atakaribia police station, pika yeye risasi. Mtu yoyote mwenye anatupiwa mawe, polisi anataka kuua polisi, ati atakuja kupembeleshwa, anakutia bunduki ni mandazi. Lakini wananchi wa area hapa, mwenye anakuja kuripoti, mwenye amekuja kukosea nini, mwenye amefanya nini, anaandikiwa, unapeleka kotini, hiyo anapelekwa kotini. Lakini mtu mwenye anakuja kuchukua bunduki,
mtu ameshakuja police station, anataka kuchukua ofisi ya serikali, anataka kuchukua bunduki, anataka kukujia maisha yako, pita na yeye. Hiyo kesi nyingine hiyo mimi ndio nitasimamia. Bora hujatoka hapa ati kwa sababu ya nini umeenda hapa nje kutafuta mtu ya kuua, hapana. Lakini mtu amekuja police station, ametaka amari, anataka bunduki, anataka maisha yako. Hapana bwana, hata kama ni madharau, hata kama mtu anadharau polisi, usikubali upigwe ati wewe umepigwa marungu na wewe ni askari uko na bunduki. Hiyo itakuwa ni bure. Fanya kabisa yenye utaweza. Tutafanya hiyo kesi nyingine baadaye. Tumemenisikia?
Yes sir.
Yeah, we will defend you, we will support you. We cannot allow our country. Kama sio nyinyi jameni, hii watu wenye wanafanyia nyinyi madharau na kuongea Kiingereza mingi na wanaishi huko Karen, kama sio nyinyi nchi ingekuwa kweli.
And I'm saying this with all humility. I cannot order an Inspector General of Police on anything because the Constitution denies me to do so. And I did not order the Inspector General or any police officer to carry out any extrajudicial anywhere. Your Excellency, what I did was to state the law. And as a lawyer, I have studied, read this law, and I understand what the law says. And what I told the police officers is, if you will not find me anywhere where I said somebody should be shot to be killed, you will not find me anywhere where I said that a police officer should take orders from myself. No. I restated the law and reminded them what the law says. And for the benefit of those, Your Excellency, who have been speaking out there, I want to read for them the National Police Service Act, Section 61(2), and Schedule, particularly Schedule 6B1. Your Excellency is very clear on the use of firearm.
Okay.
Wow.
We'll hear in a little bit what Raila Odinga actually did say about that. But so in the first part, we did hear what he said. And I believe the words he used was, ukiona akikaribia police station, pita na yeye.
Akikaribia.
Yeah, akikaribia, pita na yeye. He went on there later to characterize it and said, mtu akiingia kuchukua armory, ama amekuja kuchukua bunduki, then you can go ahead, pita na yeye. In any of these two cases, where does the law apply here?
First of all, let me just say, it's actually very embarrassing to listen to a lawyer speak like that, or a supposed lawyer, because he could have attended a law school, but maybe did not understand the law. And I think for me, to be honest, Kipchumba Murkomen is an embarrassment to the legal profession based on those terms. First of all, he imagines a case where a member of the public goes to take hammery. Where is the evidence for that as a lawyer? Nobody even made such an attempt. Number two, to say that if you come closer, ukikaribia police station, it's a public space. You know, what is wrong with a member of the public going to a police station? Ukikaribia. So, I mean, you know, it doesn't even make sense that if you go closer to a police, unless me, I'm a Kiswahili kidogo ndio English interpretation. Ukikaribia. So what is offensive about that? And he says he is reading the law. Where in the law does it say that if you come closer to a police station, then you must be arrested or you must be shot at? So I think for me, what Murkomen is doing is terrible, is a reflection of the poor, pathetic leadership that we have in this country today. And for President William Ruto, unashamedly, this is the face of his government. You know, this is the face of his government. So today you have Murkomen and some of those people, who, and some of them are not even elected, actually speaking for government. And he, the president himself, has said nothing about that. And that's the tragedy in our country today. And if you recall, for example, what even happened in Tanzania to the Boniface Mwangi and the others, our president even went ahead and apologized to another state that actually tortured our own nationals. You know, so this is it reflects very badly on the image of our country. Yeah, and you know, today we know that our president is being associated with rebels, I don't know, M23, some of the killer guys in Sudan and all that. So that is the image. So when you hear a minister for Interior, who is supposed to protect all of us, we're supposed to have confidence in Mr. Kipchumba Murkomen. But when he speaks like that, first of all, when he says he's read the law, Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya is crystal clear. As long as people are protesting peaceably, and that's the language in the law, you know, then you don't have to. Why? For example, I see an image here of this fellow who was shot. He was just standing selling masks. Today, honestly, what has happened to those police officers?
Yeah.
The man was just standing, and they shot him, and we all saw it. So,
but looks like it's not really Murkomen speaking, because he said, just to quote him again, to take it beyond what we've just heard in that clip, he said, and he was addressing now to the police,
Yes.
is within this public space,
Yeah.
surrounded by the public, but he was saying, addressing the police and saying, unatoroka tu wakati unaona ile yenye uko nayo, hata ukipeleka 5-6 bado ni wengi, lakini iko vijinga ingine watu 10-20 wewe. So what he was trying to say is, you only run if you feel you don't have enough bullets to clear the people who are actually pursuing you. But then he went further and said, na hii sio yangu peke yake, ni amri kutoka juu. That's what he said.
Yeah, so amri kutoka juu, and that's why for me I connected is what he said with the top leadership in the country, because it's a reflection. Amri kutoka juu inaweza kuwa kutoka kwa nani? In terms of the pecking orders, obviously, his appointing authority is the president of the Republic of Kenya. You know, so he actually says, confirming that is the president who has given him that okay, and the president has not disputed, has not distanced himself from what his minister, his cabinet secretary has said. You know, so he is confirming. It is President William Ruto actually who is giving the orders.
Ekuru, you played an important role in drafting the Constitution 2010. And as we talk about the constitutionalism, the rule of law in the country, one would hope that the leadership of the country, including the police, would just play by the book and the rules. But today here we are talking in terms of the Constitution has been butchered so much, has been disrespected so much that those with the responsibility don't really care. What does this do to the trust that Kenyans have that those in leadership will play by the book?
You know, for me, I am not surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised because let's go back to the referendum of 2005 and the people who actually opposed that referendum. You know, and let's go back to 2010, just before the promulgation of the Constitution. President William Ruto led a no campaign against the will of the people of Kenya. And Kenyans, about 70% actually voted for this constitution. And I was, yes, in that team. And we went around the country. And I remember we had just come from the post-election violence of 2007, 2008. And to be honest, we all believed at that time that Kenya was in the cusp of renewal. There was some renewal in the country. There was agitation, you know, all question of inclusion. If you read the Constitution from chapter 1 all through, you can actually see this is the change Kenyans wanted. And if you look again at read Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, it's very clear that all sovereign power and authority vests in the people of Kenya. Meaning that the government of the day is actually an employee of the people. And so when I hear narratives like, let's wait until 2027, I think 2027 is too far for me to wait.
They're tired.
Yeah? No, Kenyans are tired everywhere. I mean, you look, for example, I know we may not have all the time to go through some of the issues that are happening. Talk to anybody on the street. They will tell you that this country or government or institutions are now being tribalized. I'm not afraid to say people are now seeing my Kalenjin friends as an enemy because the person in government today, leadership, is from that community. And so if you look at some of the things, for example, the appointments, is it the acting CEO of TSC? It's a big debate out there. They might want to pretend it's not happening, but it's happening. And now people are seeing it from the prism of a Kalenjin just being promoted. You know, you're changing the rules in the middle of the game. Why? So a lot of things are going wrong. And it's not what was intended in the Constitution of Kenya today. You know, I am doing a case. For me, actually, I'm going to court over the impeachment of the governor of Isiolo. I'm in a team of lawyers. But some of the things that have come out from the ground is that there is a lot of interference from the government, that they are interested in this governor staying in the seat. So the top leadership in this country, honestly, is looking terrible. And it's not just leadership, guys in government today. Even the so-called opposition, people who have claimed to be opposition for the longest time, you know, are not speaking about the issues that Kenyans actually want to hear. So the only opposition today in Kenya actually is the people of Kenya. It's the people themselves.
So you're saying 2027 is very far?
It's too far.
But the president said, if the call is Ruto must go, then tell me how you want me to go.
Not if. The call is there. I mean, the call is there. I have never seen a disrespected political leader in the history of our country like Ruto. Even small kids call him now names. They call him Mwizi. You know, for me, it ridicules our government. We're being ridiculed. I mean, I'm sure, these days I don't watch news because I find news very depressing to watch. So if I want to get my update, I just go to social media. And you can see, for example,
that's not depressing? Social media is not depressing?
At least I can get a quick update than watching this kind of news bulletins about the Minister for Interior giving an order to shoot to kill. So let me just catch up with social media.
But the president's context was, just to break that a bit, his context was going out to the streets, the mayhem, the destruction, the deaths, the anarchy that we saw, and the attempted coup is not the way to get him out. So he's saying whether it's one term, it's two term. The question he was asking, tell me how you want me to go.
But by the way, there are many ways he can go. He can even resign today. Why can't he even put a resignation now that it's clear actually he's a very unpopular president? You know, Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya was one of the most genius things about our country.
Yeah.
Leadership and integrity. And the specific articles there speak about you not demeaning the office you hold. You know, bring respect to the people. So if you're truly a leader, somebody with integrity, and you realize that, I'm being ridiculed, hata watoto siku hizo wananicheka, wananitukana, you don't have to hang on to the office. You resign. So when president says, how do you want me to go? I mean, resignation is one way. He can actually go. And in fact, I don't even know why he is waiting, what he is waiting for. Because honestly, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, I mean, I just decide to take a Uber, speak to watchmen, askaris. I don't know where Ruto is going to get his votes in 2027. I do not know, unless he pulls one miracle. And I know he's not a prophet. Yeah. So this government is so unpopular, from the teachers, from pay slips. You are reading people's pay slips. You are going and there are many things to talk about, so that the popularity of this government is in question.
Sure.
And if that is in question, so it's ridiculous of the president to ask Kenyans, how do you want me to go?
It's interesting that you're here because we did talk about, you being part of the team that went. I mean, constitution making is it's no mean feat. It is not
at all.
It is not a joke.
Yeah.
Because essentially what you're doing is that you're putting into place the very rules and regulations that an entire nation and its leadership will be governed by, not just for a day, but for time, until, by way of referendum, anything within that supreme law then is changed. It's heavy stuff that we're talking about. And you are part of that team. And so here, when we are here saying that, there's certain questions that are already being asked. Now, whether the president asked that question in jest or whether he was very serious when he said, okay, guys, I've been hearing this for the longest time, and you're telling me that you want me to go, but then how do I do that? What essentially you're saying is that the formulas are there.
Yeah.
You know what to do should you be required to do so, or if you feel by personal conviction that you should. Something else that has come up is that the whole nation, or at least people across board, are up in arms and they're saying, you know what, we've had enough. But the same people contributed to having the president in that seat, voted for him, and have admitted to doing just so. Is it possible that along the line you change your mind?
You see, I don't think there's any crime or offense when you to go and elect a government is an obligation, is a duty, for every citizen. But it doesn't mean you close your eyes when that government goes wrong. Gachagua was also elected alongside President William Ruto. Was he not impeached? Because they felt that he was no longer an able deputy to the president. So the same parliament can actually today, even instead of just complaining and lamenting, they can also impeach William Ruto. So that's another way of Ruto going.
But are there grounds, political and legal grounds, to impeach Ruto?
The failure of government is the strongest ground you can ever have. There is a lot of disapproval of this government across the board. I'm sure you can take your mic today and walk on the streets and ask Kenyans, what do you think of this government? There is total disapproval of this government. It's been false promises, a lot of lies. Even when we talked about the issue, for example, of the affordable housing, the formula on how to distribute those houses is not there. Now you're introducing something called SHA, whatever the case may be. You're not telling us what was wrong with the NHIF at that time. So a lot of things are actually collapsing in this country. And I think if the president and the government actually care so much about the integrity, or even just going into the books of history in this country, I mean, they could actually just exit. It won't be the first government to exit. I mean, I think I can't remember which country that was, where an entire government resigned. And today, with this government resigning, that's the easiest formula. Let Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly, because he's third in the pecking orders, organize for an election within 60 days and let Kenyans go into an election and give a fresh mandate. So if you betray the will of your people, I mean, and I'm happy you brought the question of the Constitution. The Constitution is the highest moral ground in any country. It's the highest law in the land. So if you violate that Constitution, and there are many instances when this government has violated the Constitution, including, for example, even just the deployment of our police officers to Haiti, still a violation. We won that case, and it defied the court orders. So this is not a government that people can say we are confident. And by the way, yes, we went and voted. Yeah. But what difference is there even today whether you voted William Ruto or Raila Odinga or Wajakoya? Yeah. They're all in the same bed today. So I think the leadership in our country has become a circus. And I hope as many of us as possible. So when I was coming here, somebody was calling me and telling me, why is Raila so quiet? And I'm now going to throw this challenge back to Kenyans. Why are you not speaking? Why do you expect only one person to speak for you?
And as we have this conversation on Ruto must go sour, the government bolts up. There's how he can go. He goes fine. Then what? Is the question.
If he goes, we go seek a fresh mandate for a new government. That's the obvious outcome. Yeah. So people must go and vote. And by the way, it's not rocket science. I don't know why guys are saying 2027. No. If Ruto resigns today, the constitution is very clear. Wetangula takes charge to organize an election. At least they've been using the excuse that we don't have an IBC, which of course is a lie. Yeah? It's a lie. We never had commissioners, but we had an IBC. For example, on the question of, say, registration of voters alone, the Constitution, I think, must be Article 88, is very crystal clear that the registration is a continuous exercise. And it's being done by the Secretariat, not commissioners. You don't need a policy decision to register a Kenyan at the time they turn 18. My daughter turned 18 last year, 19, and to date, they have not been registered as voters. Then they're given a temporary ID. Since when did you hear that your national identity actually expires? After, I think, 10 years.
Do you expire being a Kenyan?
It does, yes. Yeah. Do you expire as a Kenyan? So a lot of things are very wrong in the country. And yes, the Ruto must go. Is a reality on the ground. People are talking about it everywhere. And I think maybe it is a call for him to introspect himself and say, okay, do I still want to continue as the leader of this country or not? That's also an option. He can actually, after all, he says he's a religious man. So if you fear, if you read the Bible, ogopa watu wamesema wakutaki, you must go. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with Ruto must go slogan. So it's a reflection of what people feel about you. So now go and search your soul. I say, do I still want to hang around here? If a marriage is becoming messy, leave it.
What do you think went wrong, Doc?
Yeah?
Because here we are looking, we've had this conversation for, I mean, the cement was still wet on the inauguration in 2022, and already, 400 days, we already started to hear complaints. What do you think went wrong? Because by the time we got to 2023 and then we got into the mid of the year, we were full-blown into Ruto must go already. What went wrong?
I think, of course, in any political contestation, so you make promises to the people, and people somehow buy into your promises, into your beliefs. But then, of course, there is expectation. If you tell me you're going to do A, B, C, D, you're going to protect us, you're going to deliver this and that, and then you don't deliver, let me draw an analogy here. If your staff today, your staff, even your domestic worker steals from you or breaks the rules of your house, do you still keep them? So where we have reached as a country is to say we now need to invoke Article 1 of the Constitution, where we, the people, can exercise our power independently or through elected representatives. Now, if your elected representative fails you, and in this case we're talking about government of the day, if they fail you, do you still keep them? If your employee steals from you, messes up your business, do you still keep them? That's the basic question that Kenyans are now saying. We believed, because William Ruto came with this narrative, this rosy narrative of wheelbarrow, mtu wa mjengo, mama mboga, and all that. Now they are betrayed. it's a fact of life that those people are actually feeling betrayed. You are now raiding their pay slips. You are lying to them that, the NHIF that used to work for us, now we are changing it to something else. Corruption has become order of the day. And when you listen to ministers by then, like Akina Murkomen speak, the arrogance, for heaven's sake, you can see the arrogance, the entitlement. You see, this is insulting to Kenyans, just on the face of it. So when you ask the question, what went wrong? We were lied to, but it's okay. He came in. I mean, even you can't also question. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to draw a very strange analogy, but let me know that. So when people feel that they are lied to by a government, the promises they are given are not being fulfilled. I mean, it's perfectly right for them to say, you must exit the scene. Yeah.
Okay.
And that is what went wrong, because the promises were actually lies right from the very beginning.
So before that, we saw that, and even at the time that Rigathi Gachagua was still the deputy president, and after the election, where there was a clear, I mean, for all intents and purposes, whether it was perception or not that there was a loss by Raila Odinga, there was a very overt sentiment that there would never be any kind of power sharing. There's nothing like musu mkate. There was no bread even for you to say that there was going to be half a loaf of bread. There was nothing. And that was reiterated over and over. But along the line, come June 25th, then they said, actually, you know what? Perhaps we can actually do this thing. And then suddenly Raila Odinga, who was in the opposition before, became brother, So the broad-based government then was formed as perhaps a panacea.
No, let's not call it broad-based. It's blood-based government, because we've lost many young people right from last year based on this government, and the people who are saying that they joined government for purposes of unity are actually lying. They are complicit in the killings that we have experienced. So this is a blood-based government. Let's not call it broad-based, because what is broad about it?
So for all intents and purposes, what it was meant to do was that it was supposed to bring people together and sort out issues. Raila Odinga then, over time, just kind of went along with government, and they are doing whatever it is that they're doing. He had a different sentiment, and because these things that we hear, and I keep saying that sentiments that, or expressions that people make, comments that they make, directives that they give, can all find their root in what the political position really is. And I wanted us to hear what Raila Odinga had to say about this shooting incident, or rather what police should or should not do, shoot to kill, and we can come back and then draw from that particular imagery. Just a minute.
Anybody giving instruction to a police officer that, kama mtu na karibia police station, piga risasi. My shame. Shame on you. Shame on you. We should not encourage taking away of life in a way which is not constitutional. If somebody has committed a crime, that person should be subjected to law. Arrest that person and take him to a court of law, charge him, and let the court find him guilty and then sentence him. That's the civilized society. That's the society that we want today. And therefore, we condole with those people who have.
So, anybody who did this, who said this, according to what Raila Odinga is saying, must be out of their mind. But you form government with these individuals who said these things. So if imagery is anything to go by, how do we pick up on this? If this government was formed to be a counter to the uprisings that we had been seeing in 2024. And here we are starting to hear such sentiments coming out very clearly. Does it speak further, or is it just surface level?
The bigger question, though, is that for the longest time in this country, we've been dealing with political conmanship. Actually, it seems to be the only thing I agree with Miguna when he talks about political conmen in our context. It's all, and with that political conmanship, you need to look at the history of this individual. And I think one of the things that Kenyans have refused to move away from is to discuss 1, 2, 3 only personalities. Kenya is a country of 60 million Kenyans, and we are so stuck on discussing either what I call the political cartels. Today you're discussing either Uhuru Kenyatta, you're talking about Raila Odinga, you're talking about Ruto, then you go on to talk about their surrogates. Now there's talk of Matiang'i and I don't know who else. Yet these people have all been in government, and Kenyans have experienced their bad leadership over many decades. So we have actually refused to move away from discussing these personalities. So even when Raila says that, of course, Raila and his team are also very dishonest people as an opposition. They have claimed that they are the opposition. Why have they not brought even a motion of impeachment of President William Ruto? Secondly, they keep on denying they are not in government. Yeah, when it's clear that actually they are fraternizing with a government that is killing, and the whole question of just dishonesty, you can't be fraternizing with somebody who is killing our children. For me now, speaking as a parent, I feel terrible that our children just armed with a Kenyan flag and a phone and chanting "we are peaceful" and then being shot. For example, this guy was just selling masks and shot in the head. What was the reason for that? There's no way I can associate myself with such a government. And I think the so-called opposition are very cosmetic in this country. It's a dead institution. In fact, the reason actually I think things are going, astray in this country, we have, I think the only hope for me, at least because I still practice law, is probably the judiciary. The executive and the legislature are political Siamese twins. There is no difference between the two of them. As a matter of fact, I think the National Assembly is actually an extension of the executive. And that's why things are going wrong. We have failed on the whole question of representation, legislating for society, and oversighting government. We don't feel that as a people. And those are the things that have actually gone wrong. If the highest law in the land, the Constitution, is not being respected as clearly is, things will go bad.
As the sun rises, so do we, as we trust it to rise and set without any worries interrupting your day. StarTime's home solar solution with solar panels, hybrid inverter, and lithium battery, powering your prosperity and happier life, empowering you to do the things that really matter. A complete and reliable home solar solution. Call us today. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
Place I'd rather be. Yeah.
With the people he wanted to dethrone. He worked with Moi, worked with Kibaki, worked with Uhuru, now he's working with Ruto.
Exactly, the longest, Raila has actually worked with all governments, except the Kenyatta one. But he also, I think, worked with the Kenyatta one by virtue of his father having been the first vice president of the country. So, and that's why I'm saying, as we analyze the failures of this government and the people who are now calling the political class, let's all go look at history. Yes. Where have they come from? These are, in fact, there's a rumor that Raila and Ruto are in-laws. I don't know how true it is. But
for crying out loud.
I said it's a rumor.
Okay.
So it's, they are relatives.
It stays a rumor until it's confirmed.
Yes. But the question really for me is this, that if you look at all these people, it's not like you and me. You wake up maybe at 4:03 to come and prepare for this show. You're actually invoking some of your intellectual, capacity to analyzing things. I think a lot of those folks in government today, what they do is they buy the newspaper and they go to the obituary page and say, okay, who has died where and how is that burial necessary? It's not like you and me. I wake up in the morning, I go to my law firm or I call my staff and ask him, how are we today in the cost list? Yes. So for them, politics is a career, is a life. It's a business for them. So that's why today they will insult each other. Because, I mean, if you look at, for example, the political insults in the last general election, or even before, between these characters, it's very laughable. And to your question, my brother, there's a degree of dishonesty in our society generally, even for us as the public. When we blame the political class, but we are the ones actually who give them that power, so there is also a degree of dishonesty on our part. However, when you say you want to be a leader, then you must lead the people the right way.
And Ekuru, you bring something that is very critical in terms of leadership. Leaders take the mantle to lead a country. And with that, then, if you look at what is being pushed right now is, fine, Ruto must go and all that. But then again, if you look at the history and where we come from and how the political class has worked together, there is the aspect that is being pushed right now in terms of justice has to be served. After it's all said and done, Kenyans are demanding that justice is actually upheld. We've talked about the judiciary. And as we move forward, how then are we looking at attaining this justice so that the country can then again gel and move?
I think it was Plato, who once said that one of the consequences of refusing to participate in politics is that you'll be governed by your inferiors. So, even as we blame this government, even as we say Ruto must go, we must also take some degree of blame as a people. I'm an optimist. Change is not easy. It sometimes can be slow, especially when you have a leadership that is so selfish, like the kind of that we have today, that actually lied to the people. But to your question, sometimes I even wonder, when I look at those political rallies and how Kenyans actually gather and chant to the same people that they are opposed to, I wonder actually who is dishonest.
No, but the conversations has always been they are paid. And Maliko Pesa, we will go, get the money, chant, scream, shout, and then go back home.
So then that confirms to you that we don't actually have a leadership in this country. Because if you are paying people to come and sing praises to you, and I think also, I think the political leadership in Kenya has ensured that we have got a very deplorable society that is so vulnerable that you take advantage of them, because even the money that they are giving, Kenyans are not questioning where is this money coming from, and you're not relating that money to some of the development projects that we all aspire to, things like water, health, education, and all that. You're not relating them because watu tunajua mishahara yao. We also know that they have not invented anything. They are not the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world or the Elon Musks that have come up with some, or Steve Jobs have come up with some, inventions so that we can associate those inventions to their wealth. Some of them, we don't know actually what they do for a living. So I think it's a critical moment for the country, in my view, and I hope that Kenyans can also now begin to actually interrogate themselves.
In interrogating this, 2017, you ran for president of Kenya.
Yes.
And at the time, and I know you never liked that term, they were saying you are a third-tier presidential candidate.
No, actually, they called us fringe candidates.
French candidates. That's what they called you. Yes. And so at the time, it looked like the political realignments, and we've seen these every election cycle where, for example, what is happening currently, we have a realignment of Rigathi Gachagua, Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, Fred Matiang'i. There's that alignment.
Same people.
All these people have been part of this same government or other previous governments. Now we have President Ruto on this side, together with the people who are supporting him on that side. Do you think we'll get in this country to a point where it's not going to be this political clout that follows these realignments and the euphoria, as they call it, during an election period, but take a step back and then look at the personalities? And at the time, you are cut out from what you're running against in 2027. Are we going to get to a point where we look at the personalities, the track records, and then based on that, we make our voting decisions.
Like I said earlier, I'm an optimist, and I believe change will come. One day, desirable change. I mean, we have change all the time, but one that we are all comfortable with, I'm sure it will come. I have got a lot of hope in the Gen Z movement, which was actually crushed by the same people actually today who are pretending crocodile tears, don't kill. But they're the ones actually who frustrated the Gen Z movement from last year. But I can see the resilience. I can see the determination in a society. And for me, I hold hope in the sense that if we have to go back even to our own traditional settings and say, okay, it reaches a time in society where the older generation must exit and the younger generation must take over to look after society. This is still very much embedded in our traditional settings, and I do believe in that strongly. I mean, today, if our children are not cleverer than us or better than us, then I think there's something fundamentally wrong. And at some point, we will allow that group of society to actually take the lead as we take back. But I think the sad reality in the context of Kenyan politics is that you have the same people who have actually refused to exit the scene. Same people. And this is why I think the question of us having some sort of introspection as a people is now very timely. Why is it that we are always praising the same people in a country of 60 million Kenyans? People tell me, oh, I could bring back the Punguza Mizigo Constitutional Amendment Bill. I mean, if anybody read that proposal, honestly, critically, it was going to change a lot of things in our country. It was going to take power to the people's very doorsteps, services and all that. But the same people actually who opposed me, who fought that bill so hard, are the same people we are discussing today. And I'm not ashamed to say Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and all these people now in government actually fought that bill when it was actually pro-Mwananchi. They looked at me and said, Turkana, how can a Turkana promote this? They didn't look at the fact that I'm a lawyer. I probably even have better educational credentials than them. So hopefully Kenyans will reach a stage where they will welcome any good idea. And we should be able to isolate people who are actually opposing the good ideas. And they are here in the political sphere. Because today, if there was any degree of honesty, we know how, for example, Raila and Ruto used to insult each other. It's in open there. Muganga, Mchawi, sijui nini, Mwizi, sijui ni conductor. But now, they're together. So who is being fooled here? Because,
that's a good question.
Yeah, who is being fooled here? And it reminds me, I'm sure you probably you've watched movies about the narcos, the drug traffickers and all that, the mafia. The mafia at some point, when they control territories and regions. So sometimes they will come together and say, listen, in the interest of business, you allow us the right of passage, we'll give you a certain percentage. That's exactly what's happening in the Kenyan political leadership. These people have got common interests. And the unfortunate thing is that we are stuck to discussing them. Nobody wants to hear Ekuru Aukot or the other names. Like, who is that? Does he... You see, one of the questions I kept being asked when I ran for president in 2027 is that, kwani nyo Turkana mko wangapi? Because Kenyans are not looking at ideas. And this is why the question, who is fooling who?
So that's a
because
good question.
For them, they're a gang.
So who's when you say that nobody wants to hear from Ekuru Aukot, nobody wants to hear from different options, who's nobody? Who's they? It takes us back, and I want to park that just for a minute, and then we can look historically a little bit, that when we see the current state of things and the, rampant dissatisfaction that we see then coming out in the expressions of people, has it been historic? Even if we look in the last 20 years, even if we look at 24 years of one leader, have we heard public opposition to the levels that we are hearing it today in terms of dissatisfaction with governance?
Actually, I think, and that's the hope, because in the past, you never really had such public dissatisfaction so pronounced like it is pronounced today. And I think for me, that is where the hope for this country is. And I'm hoping that Kenyans now are becoming wiser and wiser and saying, okay, why the same? Like the way they say that a monkey is just a monkey. Even if you clothe it, give it the best of suits and take it to different forests, still a monkey, So So I think it is for upon us now as Kenyans, and I think as many voices as possible should already come out. You know, it should not just be about people like us who are interested in politics. Even you guys, you must participate. You must participate. And I think that's where Kenyans go wrong, by saying politics is dirty. But from political decisions, they determine whether today you can pay your rent, you can go to a hospital, you can go to school. Those political decisions actually affect us on day-to-day basis. So when we say that we are not interested in politics, ati siasa tumewachia wana siasa, I mean, we are undermining ourselves. Yet we are the same people who now start complaining about these bad leaders.
Another thing that is being pushed for right now is public opposition has never been seen for like it where we're seeing it today. But in that as well is those that have let us down, those that have killed us, those that have stolen from us must pay. Just how important is that moving forward to the leadership that would be coming in the future, to know that you have been donated power, but if you let us down, you will be followed to the core.
So that is it's a very interesting a good thing actually, because now on the table is the whole question of accountability. Whether for political decisions or for the actions that you have taken as a police officer, people are saying account. And that's the same thing we also ask of government, because every 5 years we ask a government to account itself. And that's why we go into fresh elections. And that conversation now is even extending to institutions like the judiciary, by the way. That why is it that we only ask two arms of government, the legislature and the executive, to account every 5 years? Even the judicial officers now, you must also account for us for your action. So the whole question of accountability, for me, I think is gaining a lot of progress, and I think we must pursue it. And as many voices as possible really must speak about that. And I think that is also how we can actually begin to isolate some of it. You know, there has never been really punishment in this country for political transgressions. And this is why, for me, if I was to move another amendment on the Constitution, I'm actually going to criminalize a violation of the Constitution. Because why is it that we can actually jail a chicken thief, but not somebody who violates our will as the people? So we must find an amendment to this Constitution to criminalize a violation of the Constitution or disobedience or a court order. Yeah? And that has never been the case. And I think now that if you read a lot of constitutions now for the last, say, 20 plus years, what they call the new generation constitutions in Africa, power has shifted actually. The bigger question actually is, how do we actualize the use of that power that has now moved from the political class to the people? Because most constitutions now talk about sovereign power and authority vesting in the people to exercise it directly or indirectly through the elected representatives. Now, when the elected representatives fail you, then how do you actually actualize the exercise of that power? And I think, countries like Switzerland, they even go to a referendum, I think almost every year. Yep. To vote,
if not more.
If not more. To vote almost anything else. I think in Kenya we should go that route. Once we are dissatisfied with you, you gave us a manifesto, you said you're going to do A, B, C, D, you'll make our lives better, you'll do this, and you have failed. I mean, I don't have to wait. And that's why, for me, I'm wondering why the Omunyoro crusade keeps on talking about 2027. The action is required now. We have a minister like Murkomen who speaks so carelessly, even as a lawyer, as he claims, and then nothing is happening to him in the people's representatives' chamber. Something ought to happen.
So when you talk about, engaged citizenship, it's not just about bread and butter issues. It goes down to the very core of leadership and governance.
Absolutely.
For people to be involved in the process. It's obvious that until now, a lot of people, we don't realize the depth to which that participation can actually take a people. Do you think that awakening is happening? And what more would Kenyans need to do to actually be involved in its own leadership and governance?
I think it is happening, but again, who are the people who are actually pricking our conscience right now to that awakening? Same people who have been in government for a long time. I think the other conversation, maybe we can have this another time, is that we like what the Gachagwas and the team are doing, because actually, for all intents and purposes, they are jilted lovers. They were in bed together at some point, and then things didn't go right. Now, but for Kenyans, we love the expose. Let Gachagua tell us as much as possible what went wrong. But now the question Kenyans are also asking, is there no other alternative group? Yeah, is no any other alternative group that can actually is believable? Because you see, there is every reason to believe that if you and I had an association and then all of a sudden we fell out and then you start talking badly about me, I mean, I'll have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Cool.
But if there's another group that can actually come forward, I think Kenyans are actually ready for it.
Okay.
Kenyans are ready for that.
Do you think we'll go beyond very quickly the tribal politics as we are seeing currently being played? The playbook, as we see it, is it's us versus them. So you have one side, the president and the people around him, saying that Rigathi Gachagua and the other people around him are doing one or two things. The undertones are it's tribal. So the businesses that were targeted are from a certain community. You earlier said when you're coming to the table, you're asked, uko na Waturkana wangapi? Are you seeing as having matured to having conversations beyond tribe in this election?
Not the same people today who are in political leadership. Those guys are stuck in that past. But as I said, I have hope in the Gen Z movement. Because for some of us who are intermarried, I mean, even the schools our children go to, honestly, tribe doesn't feature. I mean, if you look at, for example, even the sleepovers from our own children to, families, the friends we fraternize with, So I think if as many of us as possible can actually join this conversation, because we are many who do not believe in that tribal mobilization. Today I can tell you, I hardly have Turkana clients. 90-something% of my clients are actually non-Turkana. So if I have to go into that cocoon of tribe, I may not even be able to put food on the table. Right. And I think that is the conversation we really must have going forward. Who are our friends? Yeah. Today, if you count maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your friends, most likely 4 of them or 3 of them are not from your tribe.
True.
Guys you fraternize with every day. Guys you socialize with every day. So I think that conversation must also be brought on the table. Because this political class just continue to mislead the country for their own selfish reason. That's why today, Tukanana, tomorrow they talk about broad-based government. What is that even in the context of
moving forward?
What is it?
Dr. Kurokot is the party leader of Third Way Party, Third Way Alliance, and has been our guest this hour. Some nuggets to go away with today to start to really think and to gear up in that direction. Thank you for being here this morning, sharing that conversation with us. And as you go on to, congratulations again to your daughter.
Thank you very much.
And we keep engaging. Citizen-centered governance is what we push for.
Absolutely.
Let's see how it goes. At 9:01.
And as many people as possible really must join this conversation because, we become curious onlookers for the longest time. And this is what has made these people so entitled to be in these positions. So because your non-participation is actually emboldening them. That, this space is ours. Yet this space is all ours together, actually.
So be involved.
Yeah.
And get engaged. Good morning.
Let's get dirty.